Hi everyone, I'm Dougal Sutherland. I'm a clinical psychologist, and this is my friend John.
Kia ora, I'm John Gregson. I'm a child and adolescent psychiatrist, and we're both parents. I'm a foster parent.
And I'm a parent to two kids, a 15-year-old boy and a 10-year-old girl. We're really pleased to be here to be talking a little bit more about rising tide. I guess one of the things I was thinking about John, was about catastrophizing, and about how in the book Ari, really you can see in the way he's thinking about things, he jumps to the worst possible conclusion about what might happen and about what people might think if they find out that he can't read or write. And it's a really common thing in kids. I can remember my daughter when she was about 5 or 6 being in tears before her first day of school because she found out who her teachers were going to be, and she said to me, "They're the worst teachers in the whole school." And so I didn't think they were going to be, but we had to support her to go to school, and when she came back with a completely different perspective. She said, "Oh, they're really cool, I love them, they're the best teachers I've had."
Oh, great.
But it's just that example, I think, about how often when we worry about something, it becomes much bigger, and we can think of the worst possible scenario than it actually turns out to be.
Yes, so she might have thought, if I have a bad teacher this year, that will mean that I won't be able to learn all the way through primary school, and then I'll never get a good education, I'll never get a good job, and I'll always be poor.
Absolutely, yeah. And in fact, when you look at it, the chances of that were pretty slight. And Ari was the same in The Rising Tide, wasn't he, in terms of, people think he's terribly stupid, the worst case scenario if he couldn't read and write.
Yes.
I'm just thinking about how useful it is for parents and teachers to be aware of that too, and about how adults can do it as well, I guess, but in this case about how kids can tend to do that, and about how they may need initially some soothing, just some calming, just somebody to hear that they're worried about something.
Yeah.
Because often that's a worry speaking, is that saying, "I'm really worried about something." And that, in fact, for parents and teachers, it's a great thing to be able to just spend a little bit of time hearing that their child is worried. And as their child calms down a little bit, perhaps helping them to look at things in a slightly different way, perhaps thinking about times when they're really worried about the worst case scenario and it hasn't quite turned out to be that way. So that's one example I can think of about how to help kids.
I'm just thinking that sometimes, like when Ari finally kind of let go of the fact that he was struggling with his reading and writing, it might be really obvious, but other times it might come across as quite a small thing that the child says, and you have to be quite sensitive as a parent or a teacher to pick up that it was a big thing to them.
You do, because Ari kept it quite quiet, didn't he? But in his mind it was huge.
Yes, and I wondered whether he had let out little clues that people hadn't picked up on.
Yeah, I agree. It's probably his sister had. Remember, his sister knew that there was something wrong, and he was worried about that. So I think that talks about, family and teachers being really attuned to their kids and about attuned to where they're at.
While we're talking about Ari, it just makes me also think about avoidance, and how he was avoiding mentioning the problem to people, but actually also avoiding writing and reading, so that instead of doing the things that would actually have really helped him get better at that problem and feel less anxious about it, it was getting to be more of a problem for him.
It's understandable too, isn't it? If you're really worried about something, if you're frightened or scared or worried about something, you do want to avoid it.
It's only natural.
But in fact, what you're saying is it makes the problem worse, really, doesn't it? Because you sort of get out of that, you probably get even worse at it in terms of your schoolwork, because you don't do it, and so you fall behind other kids, and then there's even more to worry about.
Yes, and we know that about anxiety in many contexts, don't we? If people avoid the thing that they're anxious about, actually they get more and more anxious about having to do it.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the roles that parents and teachers can play is helping kids in a supported way stay in or go back to those things that they're a little bit worried about or that they're scared of. And that can be hard sometimes because kids can put up a bit of a fight and become pretty upset, but it's really important to have those strong and clear boundaries around them. Say, hey, no, we're going to support you to do this, and we're going to help you to do this, even though it is hard for you.
Yes. I can think about a wee girl who was really nervous about going into shops and asking for things.
Oh, yeah.
And once she got to about 12, her parents really thought she has to do this. So they helped her be able to do it. So the end aim was that she could go into a shop by herself and ask for things. But they did it in gradual bites. So they went in with her, asked her to say what she wanted, then the parents spoke to the shopkeeper, and then the child spoke to the shopkeeper, and then she went in but knew her parent was outside, and eventually she could do it all by herself.
Yeah, great. Yeah, great sort of step by step. Yeah, nice.